Typically, when you play a game that's bad, your reaction is, oh, that was bad. But every now and then you play a bad game and you think, wait a second, I actually kind of enjoyed it. So what's the deal there? Well, some might say that you're a sadist, but I'd say you're a gamer. That's right, pretty much every gamer has some bad games that they enjoy. And when I say bad, I don't mean bad as in cool, like some bad biker boy. No, I mean bad as in not good. Also, for this video, when I talk about bad games that you enjoy, I'm not talking about games you enjoy that other people think are bad. I'm talking about games that you think are bad. Because here's the thing, for any game you can think of, there's somebody somewhere who thinks it's bad, no matter how much it's universally praised. For any game that somebody says is bad, you can just say, nope, I think it's good, and there you go. But it's an entirely different ball game for you yourself to think a game is bad and still enjoy it. And I think it's a fair question to ask, how does this even happen? And for that, I got a quick little example for you. Daytona USA. My goodness, it's trying to attack me for calling it a bad game. Now, the thing with Daytona USA is that it has a really bad frame rate and really bad draw distances. Not to mention, it doesn't really look at all like the original arcade game, though, to be fair, the original Daytona USA arcade is an absolute beast. But what this Saturn port does have going for it is hilarious music, and the gameplay itself does feel good and control well. So I find myself enjoying it because it just has that certain charm to it. It's a game that I think is objectively bad in some ways, but I still love it. Now, in the case of Daytona USA on Saturn, you actually will see a lot of other people who agree with me on that, and as a result, you'll see it getting recommended in certain circles. But I know some of you have some games that you think are bad, and they're games that you won't see much of anybody recommending. As a result, a lot of times the bad games that you enjoy can be very personal to you, because if these are games that are hardly even being talked about in the first place, and then when they are talked about, it's usually saying that they're a piece of crap, then what is even going to compel you to play these games in the first place? Well, I've certainly noticed that there's a bit of a culture that exists within the retro gaming community where people like to highlight games that they think are especially bad, and then they gain exposure that way and people want to check them out and maybe enjoy them in an ironic kind of way. But I think that it goes beyond that, where some of us have stumbled into games in weird ways where we would not have necessarily sought the game out, but we stumbled upon it, tried it out, and for whatever weird reason, we actually enjoyed it. And one of the most common ways that this would happen back in the day was with video game rentals. Let me just throw a scenario at you that I can almost guarantee some of you will relate to. So, you're a kid, and it's the weekend, and lucky you, you get to go to the video game rental store to rent a video game. Boy, oh boy, are you excited. So you get to that store and you pick out a game. And back in those days, it's probably based on availability, maybe the box art cover of something speaks to you. Well, you get that game and you take it home. And what happens? Well, maybe it's good, but maybe it's not. And if it's not, that's a bummer, right? Well, you're a kid and you think to yourself, shoot, well, I'm basically stuck with this game for the weekend, so I might as well give it a try. And so by some sort of strange Stockholm Syndrome effect, you know, Stockholm Syndrome where a prisoner falls in love with their captor, well, by some miracle, you fall in love with that game. These games are what I like to refer to as Stockholm Syndrome games. Pretty much every gamer has at least a game or two like this. For me personally, it would be Lion King on Sega Genesis. I received that game for Christmas as a child. How do you not play the ever-loving bejesus out of that game? But let me tell you, that game abused me, and trying to grab onto those stupid swinging hippo tails was bullshit. You know, I love Lion King for Sega Genesis, always have. It's just one of those games that's really special to me. I often talk about how some of our absolute favorite games usually have very personal reasons behind why we like them so much. So bad games that you enjoy would fall right into this category because often you have a very individual, specific reason for why you enjoy that game so much. And it's like, yeah, that game may be a turd, but that game is your turd, and nobody can ever understand and experience the way you enjoy that game quite the way you do. Quick little story for you, and this story's about Eddie. That's right, I'm talking about Eddie again. And if any of you have been watching long enough and can remember who Eddie is, write it down in the comments below. Major points to you, because it's been a while since I've talked about Eddie. So anyways, Eddie was the cousin of my friend, and every now and then I'd go over to my friends to play Nintendo 64, and sometimes Eddie would come over, and boy oh boy did Eddie love this game called War Gods. By all accounts, a terrible fighting game for the Nintendo 64. Now, we all just thought that Eddie was an idiot, but here's a thought, maybe we were the idiots, because there Eddie was with his very special experience with War Gods, a game that he loved to play, and with the added benefit of being able to absolutely mop the floor with all of us since he got so good at that game. I think there's a part of me that wants to believe that Eddie is out there somewhere still playing War Gods and enjoying every single minute of it. Hey, you know what? I just thought of something. If there's a game that you think is bad, but you still enjoy it, would somebody who thinks that game is good be offended that you think the game is bad, or delighted that you still enjoy the game? That'll keep me up at night for sure. But anyways, I really wanted to cover this topic because I feel like it's something that people can relate to. I mean, when I first announced that I was going to be covering this topic, there seemed to be a lot of enthusiasm from all of you. You're probably thinking deep down, ooh, there's a crappy game that I like. Let's talk about bad games. And oh, here's another thinker for you. So the Power Glove, what type of bad would that be? Well, I think it's actually both definitions of bad, because the Power Glove is both cool and a piece of crap. Probably why people like that quote from the movie The Wizard so much. But for this video's question, of course, you're going to be talking about a game that you think is bad but you still enjoy. And remember, it's a game that you personally think is bad, not that other people think is bad. So be sure to talk about those games down below, and I will see you in the next video.
He's the Retro Bird, yeah, and he's talking about me.